Hello friends, welcome back to our channel. I hope you all are well and doing great. So today I'm back with another video to continue our UCAT preparation test. So as you know, we have completed our question tutorial. So today we're going to start it from the practice test questions. So welcome to the UCAT practice questions. We're going to start it from the verbal reasoning. Use this question bank to familiarize yourself with the types of questions in this subtest. Before using this question bank, we recommend you work through the relevant question tutorial as it includes in-depth tips and strategies on how to approach and answer each of the different question types within this subtest. Question tutorials are available on the preparation resources section of the website. Each question bank contains a large number of questions that are split into sections that you may wish to attempt over several practice sessions. The navigator function at the bottom right of the screen allows you to navigate between questions and sections within the bank. Your progress through the question bank is not retained for future visits. It is therefore advisable to make a note of which questions you have attempted. As you progress through each question, you can click Explain Answer at the top left of the screen to check the correct answer and read the answer rationale. An alternative way to check your answers is to use the navigator to skip to the final question. Then click Next to proceed to the review screen. The review screen will show which questions are answered incorrectly. You may click on a question number to return directly to its location in the bank, where you can check the correct answer and rationale by clicking Explain Answer at the top of the screen. Click the Next button when you are ready to begin. Verbal reasoning practice questions. Verbal reasoning practice questions. This question bank contains 4 sections. Question bank section 1 of verbal reasoning. Question bank section 2 verbal reasoning. Question bank section 3 of verbal reasoning. And question bank section 4 of verbal reasoning. The navigator function at the bottom right of the screen allows you to navigate between questions and sections within the bank. The verbal reasoning subtest assesses your ability to read and think carefully about information presented in passages and to determine whether specific conclusions can be drawn from information presented. You are not expected to use prior knowledge to answer the questions. You are presented with passages of text, each associated with 4 questions. There are 2 different question types in this subtest: a question or incomplete statement with 4 response options, where you are required to pick the most suitable answer or response. A question where you must determine on the basis of the information in the passage whether a statement is true, false, or you can't tell. Please click the next button to proceed. Section 1, Verbal Reasoning. First we're going to learn about some instructions for the section 1. You are presented with passages of text, each associated with 4 questions. There are 2 different question types in the subtest: a question or incomplete statement with 4 response options, where you are required to pick the most suitable response. A question where you must determine on the basis of the information in the passage whether statement is true, false, or you can't tell. Click the next button to proceed. So here we have our first question of the section. As you can see here at the top right corner of the screen, which shows you the number of questions, that you are at the number 1 questions out of 44. And then here we have a navigator option. You can navigate it between any questions like this. Here we have a calculator to use it to solve your questions. Then we have an explain answer option, which we will see. And so let's move towards the question. Here they give you a passage like this, and then we have a question statement and 4 options, and we have to select one correct response or option. So here you can read a paragraph and then a question. So the statement that they given here is that the key difference between living in areas such as the Eden Valley and living in a town or city is option A, the low incomes of local residents in the countryside. Option B, local residents' willingness to organize and do something for each other. Option C, the absence of housing to rent or buy in urban areas. Option D, that civil servants do more for urban dwellers than rural dwellers. So here we have these four options in a statement. So let's move towards the explain answer. It says that correct response is option B. Option B is correct because although there are big society projects in some towns, they are a minority. In the Eden Valley, community activity is much greater than in many other rural areas. Example, 150 volunteers coming together to discuss proposals is exceptional and unusual. So the second sentence in paragraph 1 says people know their neighbors and almost treat them like part of an extended family. Unlike townsfolk who often wouldn't even recognize, let alone speak to, the person living next door. So that's why here we have an option B is the correct, which is local residents' willingness to organize and do something for each other. Next question we have is with the same paragraph, but the statement is different and we have different options. So let's take a look at the question, or you can say a statement. As a consequence of the big society program, Whitehall officials, civil servants now, option A, work only for community groups. Option B, operate very differently, but in the end decisions are the same. Option C, still only do work for ministers. Option D, operate very differently, leading to significantly different. So here we have these options. You can use some keywords from the statement that is given to you. So you can use it to find your answers from the paragraph. So here we have big society program and Whitehall officials as some keywords. So you can look for Whitehall officials or big society program and then you can find your answer from the paragraphs easily. So let's find. So here we have big society program aims to change how civil servants operate. Instead of just providing advice to ministers, Whitehall officials, they also have to help communities of all kinds cut through bureaucratic rules to empower community groups. So option D is correct because the second paragraph says, as I have already told you about this one, that the big society programs aim to change how civil servants operate. So here we have that answer like this. You can use these keywords from the statement that is given to you to find your right option from the paragraph. So that's why we have option D is the correct, which is operate very differently, leading to significantly different outcomes. Next question is, again we have a same passage but with a different statement. So here we have the big society program operates, option A, only in rural areas, option B, only in urban areas, option C, in both rural and urban areas, option D, mainly in rural areas. So let's see which one is the right option. So here we have correct response is option C is correct because although the first sentence in paragraph 1 refers to rural areas, the end of the second paragraph refers to communities of all kinds. That's why option C is the correct one, which is in both rural and urban areas. Okay, next we have again same passage with a different statement. The big society program aims to give volunteers the chance to, option A, just receive detailed factual information about proposals and costs. Option B, get directly involved in taking decisions and running projects. Option C, state any objections they have to proposals affecting their area. Option D, suggest alternative policy ideas to their local council. Now again you can use these words as a keyword to find your answers from the paragraph, which are the big society program aims to give volunteers the chance to. Like this you can use it to find your answer. So let's see which one is the correct answer. Option B is correct because the first two sentences of the passage show that this is more than people giving opinions but involves actually getting the ideas put into effect. Just because of this, option B is correct, which is get directly involved in taking decisions and running projects. Next question is question number 5. As I have already told you that each passage is associated with 4 questions. So last 4 questions associated with one paragraph, and now we are at the question number 5. So that's why we have another different paragraph or passage. Okay, so the statement is Dunwich is described as England's Atlantis because, like Atlantis, it was option A drowned by the ocean, option B a busy trading port, option C the home of thousands of people, option D noted for its fine buildings. Now you can use this England's Atlantis as your keywords to find your answer. So here we have that Dunwich has been referred to as England Atlantis because it is the largest of the 150 settlements lost to the North Sea. It used to be a major trading port, the biggest in the east of England. So yeah, option A is correct because Professor David Sears says in the second paragraph that Dunwich has often been referred to as England Atlantis because it is the largest of the 150 settlements lost to the North Sea. So option A, which is drowned by the ocean, is correct. Next we have question number 6, which is apart from historical interest, the local community who currently live in and around Dunwich benefit from option A finding valuable artifacts, option B its reputation as a trading center, option C providing hospitality to tourists, option D its historic transport links. So correct response is C. Option C is correct because the second paragraph states the increasing numbers of today's visiting tourists just see a ruined monastery and some houses. The fourth paragraph adds Dunwich consists of a 200 population cliff-top hamlet which increasingly lives off tourism. So because of this, option C, which is providing hospitality to tourists, is the correct response. Next we have question number 7, which says that Dunwich was lost as a result of option A storms and coastal erosion. Option B, rising sea levels. Option C, poor building construction. Option D, the positioning of its port. So these are the some options we have to find our right answer. So here correct response is A, which is option A is correct because the first paragraph says, yet while this was happening, the early medieval capital of East Anglia, Dunwich, was slipping into the sea. That's why option A, which is storms and coastal erosion, is correct. So Dunwich was lost as a result of storms and coastal erosion. So if you don't move all the screen, your scroll bar all the way down, then you cannot move to the next question. That's why you have to move your screen all from left to right and top to bottom. Okay, next question we have that the first evidence provided by the writer of Dunwich land property being in danger of destruction came in the option A 10th century, option B 11th century, option C 13th century, and option D 14th century. So here we have correct response is option B, which is correct because the third paragraph states the Domesday Book records that half of the town's taxable farmland was lost to the sea between 1066 and 1086. So that's why option B, which is 11th century, is the correct response. The first evidence provided by the writer of Dunwich land or property being in danger of destruction came in the 11th century. Okay. Same thing happened again. So next question we have question number 9. The activity referred to in the passage which best suggests that the 18th century was a sociable period is option A embroidery, option B reading books, option C visiting friends, option D writing diaries. So here we have option C is correct because visiting friend is clearly a sociable activity as it involves meeting and socializing with others. Whereas reading, writing, and embroidery are all essentially solitary activities. So here we have option C, which is visiting friends, is the correct response. So the statement becomes that the activity referred to in the passage which best suggests that the 18th century was a sociable period, is visiting friends. Next question is question number 10 is the reference to discrepant awareness can best be understood to refer to the word. Option A, rational. Option B, realism. Option C, ridicule. Option D, romance. So here you can use this discrepant awareness as your keywords to find your answer from the paragraph and the passages. So here we have an explained answer which says that option B is correct. See realism in paragraph 2, because real life is marked by some actors being aware when others are still in ignorance. So that's why option B, which is realism, is the correct option. So the statement becomes that the reference to discrepant awareness can best be understood to refer to the word realism. Okay, so let's move towards our next question, which is question number 11. Which of these conclusions can be drawn from the passage? So here some passages are given like this, and they have given some conclusions. So which one of these conclusions is from the passage, is related to the passage? Option A, modern readers do not have sufficient time to read epistolary novels. Option B, 21st century writers are unable to use this style effectively. Option C, epistolary novels were only popular in 18th century England. Option D, not all 18th century writers encouraged this style of writing. So here we have our 4 options for this statement. You can see 4 conclusions, and we have to choose one which is related to the, or which is drawn from the passage. So let's see which one is the correct. So here we have option D is correct, because the reference to ridicule, especially in relation to the 18th century novel, confirms that not all writers encourage this style. Option A is incorrect, because although the passage refers to increased layer time as encouraging development, there is no reference to lack of time among modern readers. Option B is incorrect because the passage's final sentence refers to a revival in the 21st century but does not say whether or not writers use the style effectively. Option C is incorrect because we are told popularity declined but the style continued in use after the 19th century. So that's why we have option D is the correct, which is not all 18th century writers encouraged this style of writing. So let's move towards our next question. So now we have the statement which is that the word polylogic is used in this passage can best be understood to refer to the number of option A characters in an epistolary novel, option B different plots in an epistolary novel, option C letter writes in an epistolary novel, option D different views in an epistolary novel. So you can use polylogic as your keyword to find your answer, that the word polylogic is used and the passage refer to what. So here we have polylogic novels. So our right option is option C because paragraph 2 explains that epistolary novels are usually written in letter form and polylogic novels had 3 or more authors contributing at the same time. That's why option C, which is letter writes in an epistolary novel, is the correct option. Next we have a different passage with a different question, which is we can take a look at the paragraph or passages from which you have to write your answer. So question is, what can be inferred from the passage about classical scholars? Option A, they are experts of language translation. Option B, they like to take risks. Option C, they regard accuracy as crucial. Option D, they want to change the original texts. So option C is correct because the passage is all about interpreting manuscripts as accurately as possible. Therefore, It can be referred that classical scholars regard accuracy as crucial. A is incorrect because although classical scholars try to reach as accurate a view as possible of what ancient authors wrote, there is always a debate between scholars about what was originally written. B can't be supported as the passage suggests that risks are inevitable, not desirable. D is incorrect because the scholars want to improve the accuracy of the original when necessary, not change every original. So here we have option C is correct, which is they regard accuracy as crucial. So next question is that according to the passage, which of the passage of the following would not be a possible source of problems for classical scholars in the study of texts? Option A, mistakes made in spelling. Option B, difficulties in finding manuscripts. Option C, mistakes made when texts are copied. Option D, difficulties of language. So these are the four options. So let's see which one is correct. So here we have option C is correct because the comparison of scutula and scapula in paragraph 2 is about editorial choices when reworking a manuscript rather than spelling. The other options are all spotted within the passage. Therefore, the correct response is option A, which is mistakes made in spelling. So the statement becomes, according to the passage, which of the following would not be a possible source of problems classical scholars in the study of text? So mistakes made in spelling would be a possible source of problem in their study of texts. Okay, now next question we have question number 15, which is why does the writer use the example of the tragedies of Aeschylus? Option A, Aeschylus is one of the most famous classical authors. Option B, he wrote more plays than other classical authors. Option C, every single classical scholar studies his work. Option D, there is much debate about the accuracy of the texts of his work. So here we have option D is correct. because his works are used as a prime example of disputed texts or manuscripts, partially because of A and B. A is mentioned in the texts, but it is not relevant to the context of the question. What is the writer showing by using this example? B is not the key issue. C is based on a misreading. So that's why option D is correct, which is there is much debate about the accuracy of the text of this work. Okay, next question we have question number 16, which is what is the significance of the distinction made in the passage between scutula and scapula? Option A, it shows that classical scholars are advancing in their understanding of Romans. Option B, it suggests that the Romans' knowledge of British geography was uncertain. Option C, it indicates that classical scholars don't know which interpretation is right. Option D, it shows how much Romans knew about Britain. So let's see which one is the correct. So here we have option D is correct because paragraph 2 states how much, that is, do we imagine that the Romans really knew about the conquered territories? The answer to this partially depends on whether you believe that the Roman historian Tacitus compared the shape of the island to a diamond, scutula in Latin, as all the manuscripts in most old editions have it, or to a shoulder blade, scapula, as an editor of the text writing in 1967 thought would be better. Option A and C are not relevant to the significance of the distinction. Option B has more connection to the significance, but it is based on a misreading. So here we have our right option is option D, which is it shows how much Romans knew about Britain. Okay. Next question is going to be question number 17. Based on the information in the passage, what can be inferred about traditional zombie culture? Option A, it was too gory. Option B, it was not very popular. Option C, it portrayed zombies as simple monsters. Option D, it dealt with the societal impacts of a zombie plague. So here we have these four options. So let's see which one is correct. So option C is correct because the passage discusses the growing humanity, or you can say capacity for compassion and thought of the contemporary zombie compared to the traditional zombie. Option A is incorrect because the passage does not mention that traditional zombies were excessively gory. Option B is incorrect because the passage does not mention the popularity of traditional zombie culture. Option D is incorrect because the second paragraph explains that this is an aspect of contemporary zombie culture rather than traditional. So from here you can see that why we have option C is the correct and why the other ones are not correct option. So option C, which is it portrayed zombies as simple monsters, is the correct option. So next we have question number 18, which is if the information in the passage is presumed to be true, which of the following must also be true? Option A, Night of the Living Dead is an obsolete film. Option B, the horror genre encompasses more than just gore. Option C, zombie culture will become even more popular as time goes on. Option D, what zombie fans want will continue to change through the years. So here we have our four options. You can use some keywords to find your answers from the passage, and you can also see it from here. So here we have option B is correct because the films, novels and video games mentioned tackle social issues within the context of a zombie apocalypse. Option A is incorrect because the use of iconic to describe the zombie in Night of the Living Dead implies that the film is still popular. Options C and D are incorrect because the passage makes no predictions about the future. That's why we have option B is correct which is the horror genre encompasses more than just go. So that's why we have option B is the correct option. So let's move towards our next question, which is question number 19. It says that based on the information in the passage, which can be inferred about contemporary fans of zombie culture. Option A, they are well educated and interested in social issues. Option B, they are older and more mature than fans from previous generations. Option C, they are not interested in any films, novels, or video games that feature the traditional zombie. Option D, they are influenced by early zombie culture but enjoy a new perspective on the classic monster. So option D is correct because the passage explains that although the traditional zombie remains popular, example, some video games continue to feature gruesome morning horrors. This has been supplemented with new interpretations. Option A is incorrect because the passage does not imply anything about the education of contemporary zombie fans. Option B is incorrect because the passage does not imply, and option C is incorrect because the beginning of the second paragraph describes two video game series that feature the traditional zombie. So that's why we have our right option is option D, which is they are influenced by early zombie culture but enjoy a new perspective on the classic monster. Next, we have question number 20, which says that the contemporary zombie differs most from the traditional zombie in that option A, it is more human. Option B, it is not as scary. Option C, it is more popular. Option D, it is not as relevant. So option A is correct because the final paragraph mentions some human like traits of contemporary zombies. Additionally, it can be inferred from the passage that the contemporary zombie is used in metaphorical sense to stand in for the human experience. Option B is incorrect because the passage does not describe the scariness of the contemporary zombie. Option C is incorrect because the passage does not mention the popularity of the contemporary zombie. Option D is incorrect because the passage implies that the contemporary zombie is more relevant. For example, the second paragraph describes zombie stories that explores the political angle of a zombie apocalypse. So here we have option A, which is it is more human, is a correct one. The contemporary zombie differs most from the traditional zombie in that it is more human. So here we have option A is correct. So I think that is all in for today. We will continue from our next question, which is question number 21 in the next video. If you have any confusion, you can ask me in the comment section. I'll be back with another video. Till then, just take care.